All right, so we're going to talk about linear functions and slope. So recall that slope measures the steepness, the slant or tilt. Slope is equal to m, which is equal to the rise over the run. Think about, you have to rise before you can actually run. If you try to run before you rise, you're not going to get very far. So you have to rise up off the bed, rise up out of the chair, rise up out of the car before you can actually go running. So do the rise first. So that is the change in y over the change in x. The change in y would be subtracting the y's over subtracting the x's. So graphs with different types of slope we will get into and talk about here. So if it's rising, it's got a positive slope. It's going positively up. If it's falling down, it's a negative slope. A vertical is going to be a vertical line, and it is undefined because that means it's going to be divided by 0. A horizontal line means that it has a slope of 0, so it's going to go straight across the horizon. So you can put these together as slope man. So part of these you can understand. You've got the positive slope where it's rising. Those are his eyes, the positive and the negative slope, which are pretty straightforward. But I have many students who mess up the nose and the mouth, the undefined and the horizontal. I did not come up with slope man. I got it from one of my colleagues who found it somewhere else. So I don't know who to give credit for, but I really like slope man. So the nose piece, you can think about that as either a U at the end for the arrow part, a U for undefined, or the V for vertical. And then the horizontal mouth going across, it has 0 for like the little cheeky parts. That is telling you he has a 0 slope. And then I've kind of broken it out again with the behavior where it rises to the right, falls to the right, it's undefined vertical line, and it's a horizontal line for 0. All right, so our first question, we're going to find the slope of the line passing through the pair of each set of points. Determine the behavior of each line. Does it rise, fall, or is it vertical or horizontal? So example 1. We are looking at 4, 0 and -2, 3. So remember, in all of these, our slope formula, y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. The more you write the formulas when you're working, the more you'll remember them. I will provide you with formulas on your exam, but you got to know what they look like in order to use them. All right, so one of the first things I'm going to tell you to do is label them. It doesn't matter which one is the first point and which one is the second point, but it helps if you label them so you don't accidentally grab the wrong number. I have many students who will grab the same number twice accidentally, so really pay attention to this part. So y sub 2 is going to be 3 minus y sub 1 of 0 over y, or x sub 2 of -2 minus x sub 1 of 4. You'll get the same answer no matter which one you put as the first point or the second point. Just make sure you always go the same direction. Don't do the opposite on one, like go one way and then go the other way for the x and the y, or you'll get the opposite sign. So 3 minus 0 will be 3, and -2 minus 4 will get us -6. You always need to reduce this. These will both divide by 3, so we will end up with -1/2. So this tells us that the slope will actually fall. It falls to the right. All right, let's look at part B. So this is part A. Let's look at B. So B, we're going to have -5, 0 and -5, 4. Those are our 2 points. So again, we're going to write our formula, y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1, and I'm going to label my points. So y sub 2 will get us 4 minus 0 over x sub 2 is -5 minus negative 5. Don't forget any of your negative signs. So 4 minus 0 is 4. This double negative will actually turn that into a positive, so negative 5 plus 5 will get us 0. Well, you can't divide by 0. It's actually undefined. And so this one's actually going to be a vertical line. Something that can be fun, you can ask Siri, what is 0 divided by 0? Talks about Cookie Monster and Friends. Makes it fun to kind of remember, like, why would you divide by 0? It doesn't make any sense. All right, next one will be part C. And our values are going to be 0, 2, and 2, 2. So again, we're going to label x1, y1, x2, y2. M is equal to y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So that'll get us 2 minus 2 over 2 minus 0. 2 minus 2 is 0. 2 minus 0 is 2. Well, 0 can be divided by anything. It's always going to equal 0. So this tells us we have a horizontal line. All right, so example 2, find the slope from a graph or by calculation. So we're given 2 points, so we could actually find it, or we can look at it and see what happens with the graph. So as we look at the graph, we can look at the 2 points here where it lines up. You can't pick a point in the middle. You've got to have a point that actually matches. So as we look at these, we can see that we're going to do our rise over runs. We're going to rise up, so we can count up from our negative 3, negative 1 point here, and we go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're rising up 5 units, and we go over 1 unit. So our slope would then be 5 over 1, which is 5. On this graph, we'll start at this point, and we're going to go down to this one, so we can actually count down. So we're starting at positive 4 and going down to negative 2. So we'd go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units, so down 6, and we're going to go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. So our slope would be negative 6 for rising down over 5. So you can count on your graph if you're in the homework, or you can take the 2 points and you could find the calculation by using the slope formula. But you can just count when you're looking at something like that. All right, so we've got 2 forms of linear equations. Point-slope form of the equation of a line. So an equation of a line that has slope m and passes through a point. So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Your point is your x1, y1, and your slope is m. Whenever you do this, this y and this x need to stay as y and x. So you end up with a y equals mx plus b, because that's what you'll solve it down for. There's also the slope-intercept form, and that is your y equals mx plus b. So an equation of the line that has slope m and y-intercept of 0, b has the formula of y equals mx plus b. Your slope is m, your y-intercept will be the b part, which is 0, b. So let's go on to example 3. We're going to write the point-slope form of the line and then write the slope-intercept form of the equation for the following. So m is equal to 2 passing through 1, 5. So this will be example 3. And we're looking at part A. So our m is equal to 2, and the point is 1, 5. Remember, we're using y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Again, the more you write the formulas, the more you will learn them. This is going to be your x1 and your y1. So y minus 5 is equal to our m of 2 times x minus 1. So this will get us y minus 5 is equal to 2x minus 2 when we distribute the 2 to both parts. So we're going to add our 5 over to get, because we're trying to solve for y equals mx plus b. So y is equal to 2x plus 3, because 5 minus 2 will get you 3. So this would be your point slope, and this is your slope intercept. All right, let's look at the second problem. So this would be part B. So for part B, we are told that passing through 2 points. So if we're passing through 2 points, what are we going to do with that? What's our slope? So the first thing we have to do is actually find the slope. Remember, that's y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So x1, y1, x2, y2. So y2 would be negative 5 minus 0 over negative 4 minus 4. Negative 5 minus 0 would be negative 5. Negative 4 minus 4 would be negative 8. A negative over a negative will get us a positive 5 over 8. So now we can pick either point. Either point will get you the same answer. It doesn't matter which way you choose it. It would be easier if we used the 4 and the 0. So we're going to go that route, but I'm still going to show you something that you can do to make it easier. So we're going to still use our formula of y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. You'll get the same answer no matter which point you use. It really doesn't matter. But this one has easier numbers because the 0 goes away. So y minus 0 equals 5 over 8 times x minus 4. Plugging in our x and y here and plugging in our 5/8. So this will get us y is equal to 5 over 8 times x minus 4. Now, if you can multiply by the fraction, that's awesome. If you can't, you might want to do what I'm going to show you here. You can multiply both sides by the denominator. So if I multiply both sides by 8, I end up with 8y is equal to 5, because that will cancel there, times x minus 4. So 8y equals 5x minus 20 when I distribute, and then come back and divide by the 8. So y is equal to 5 over 8x minus, now 20 over 8 will reduce down to 5 over 2. Now you can work it the other way, and it works the same way. I don't know if we'll be able to see this very well, but I've pre-worked out this problem both ways to show you. So working the same problem, I instead picked the other point of negative 5 and negative 4. And then I multiplied both sides by the 8. Of course, the double negatives became positive. And I get down to the exact same answer, 5/8x minus 5 over 2. So it doesn't matter which one you do, you're going to get the same answer. So just always pick the problem or the points that give you the easier math. So remember, this would be your point slope, and this will be your slope intercept. All right, let's go on to example 4. So example 4 says to give the slope y-intercept and then graph the function for the given equation, y is equal to negative 3x plus 2. So our equation is y equals negative 3x plus 2, and we need to give the slope. Remember, the slope is equal to m, and our formula we're looking for is y is equal to mx plus b. So our slope is m, and our y-intercept is going to be equal to the b part. So the slope comes right here in front of the x. It does not include the x. It's just the number in front of it. So the slope will be equal to -3. Our b is going to be 2, but if we're talking about an intercept, normally we're going to write it as 0, 2. Now, we need to graph it. So if we're graphing it, we don't need a whole lot of numbers. I'm going to go to about, let's go to 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is my y, this is my x. So I'm going to start by graphing my y-intercept. Well, my y-intercept is at 2, and my slope is -3. Now, they didn't tell me it's just -3, but usually it's rise over run. You can rewrite that as -3 over 1, because every whole number is over 1, and I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, and over 1, and draw my line. And that's all you got to do to graph that. Just plot the intercept and then draw the graph. All right, let's go to example 5. Let's go look a little bit at graphing. So, equation of a line, of a horizontal line, remember, is y is equal to b. And the equation of a vertical line is x is equal to a. So, on example 5, we are given to graph a line, and we're told that our slope is equal to 0. So that means that y is equal to mx plus b, so y is equal to 0x plus b, which tells us that y is equal to b. So that's where you know you have a horizontal line. If your slope is 0, you end up with just b, because 0 times anything goes away. Just a little clarification in how you can tell on that. So we need to graph y is equal to 4. So I'm going to need 4 hash marks. So y equals 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the line goes through it. So it's going to go this way. Remember, this is a horizontal line. That's all you have to do. You don't need to make a t-chart, but if you did, it would be if x is 2, y is 4. If x is 0, y is 4. If x is 4, y is 4. No matter what, your y value is going to be 4. Now let's look at another example. If we look at example 6, we're looking at graphing a vertical line. So remember, that's x equal to a. Our m is undefined. And we want to graph x is equal to 2. So this time we only need 2 hash marks. So at x equal to 2, I'm going to draw a line straight through it. So find your x equals 2 and then draw a line through it. It's a vertical line, so it just goes straight up and down. All right, the general form of an equation is ax plus by plus c equal to 0. A, b, and c are constants, and a and b are not both 0. To graph an equation of a line, you want to solve the equation for y equals mx plus b, plot your intercept, start at the y-intercept, use the slope to rise and run, then plot the second point. Draw your line, which passes through both points. Solving for y equals mx plus b will not help you graph the x-intercept, so pay attention to the instructions of the problem and how you need to graph it. So are they asking you to graph it using the slope and intercept, or are they asking you to graph it with both intercepts? So remember, for intercepts, we set x equal to 0 and solve for y. Set y equal to 0 and solve for x. Using your slope and your y-intercept, solve for y equals mx plus b, plot your y-intercept, use your rise over run, and draw the line through both points. All right, so let's graph. This will be example 7. We're going to graph using slope and y-intercept for 3x plus 2y minus 4 equals to 0. So the first thing we have to do is to rewrite it into y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to subtract my 3x from both sides. And I'm going to go ahead and add the 4 at the same time. We're going to move two parts of our equation at the same time. So I end up with 2y equal to negative 3x plus 4. So make sure your x part is in the front because you need it in y equals mx plus b. So I just did the opposite of each part, moved them over. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 2. Make sure you do this individually and not as one part because you need it as y equals mx plus b. So negative 3 over 2 times x, and 4 over 2 will reduce down to 2. So this is my y equals mx plus b. So this tells me that my y-intercept, well, let's go with the slope first. My slope is negative 3 over 2, and my y-intercept is equal to 2, which we know is the point of 0, 2. So now I can draw a graph. X, and we've got a y. 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. So my slope-intercept is at 2. My graph, or my slope, is going down. So I plotted this. So now I'm going to go down 3, 1, 2, 3, and over 2. So these are not perfect graphs because I am drawing by hand, and I know my gaps are not all equal, but it's okay. We're just sketching. So that's how you're going to graph it with the slope and the y-intercept. Now, let's go look at graphing with intercepts. If I ask you to graph something with just the y-intercepts, you actually have to do what you're asked. So example 8 is graph by finding intercepts. So we have 4x minus 3y minus 6 equals 0. So to find the x-intercept, I will set y equal to 0. To find the y-intercept, I'll set x equal to 0. So 4x minus 3 times 0 minus 6 equals 0. Well, anything times 0 is 0. So I'll end up with 4x minus 6 equals 0. I'm just solving for x here, so I'm going to move the 6 over. So 4x equals to 6, divide by 4, and it will reduce by dividing both parts by 2. So I'll end up with 3 over 2. So my x-intercept is 3 over 2, 0. Now let's go find our y-intercept. So x will be 0 this time, so 4 times 0 minus 3y minus 6 equals 0. 4 times 0 is 0, so we're left with negative 3y minus 6 equals 0. I'm going to just move my 6 over like I did, so negative 3y is equal to 6. Don't forget your negative signs here. So y will be equal to 6 divided by negative 3 will get me negative 2. So 0, negative 2. Now I'll take those two intercepts and I will graph. I don't need very many points because I only have a negative 2 and a 1.5. So I'll do like 3 points. So at 3 halves for my x, that's 1.5. So that'll plot right here. And 0, negative 2, that'll plot right there on the y-axis. And I'll draw my line. So do pay attention to the instructions so that you make sure you graph it correctly.